He works in advertising, and he's not a menswear guy. He's just a friend that we have. But he messaged me out of the blue, kind of saying, "Hey, just want your thoughts on this, And this is a guy who, again, works in advertising, so maybe he's looking at the market, reading fucking newspaper trends. I don't know." But he asked me, "What do you think about the death of the suit? I've heard that suit sales have gone down 75%. Want to know my take on that as someone who is, in this world, I guess,
Really
right?"
quick, I think No Man's Sky is worth it now. It's a pretty good game. I got it after one of the first big updates they added, so I didn't have any animosity towards it. So
That's good.
maybe I'm easy to win over, but I'm like, yeah, this game's good. It's worth it.
Is
Okay,
there
go
a
on.
Comment from
multiplayer now?
E-Girls Galore asking if it was worth it.
Yeah.
No multiplayer though.
There is a multiplayer. There's
but-
multiplayer.
Nice.
There is multiplayer. But yeah, so that's kind of what we maybe what could be our first topic. Just light discussion, because I'm sure we've kind of answered it many times on the stream about how no one's wearing suits anymore, the death of the tie, blah blah blah. But basically, what I told him, and I have to actually use the restroom because I ate before this, and
Explain what happened.
It's calling. But here's what I sent him a couple of articles. First of all, I sent him something that Alex Petkovich wrote very recently for Rob Report, about how SadBois how it may survive the pandemic, and all these places are obviously they're changing, right? I think that even if we're not in a world where you have to wear a suit to work, SadBois has already been on decline, for the past 50 years, right? Just because tastes have changed since then,
Yeah.
right? And they've already, when they were talking, when Blammo was interviewing Jake Grantham, something they talked about was how a lot of SadBois tailors have moved into ready to wear or made to measure, something like that. Like Anderson and Shepherd opened up their little haberdashery to sell trousers and knitwear that they produce. And of course, Jake Grantham with Anglo Italian, they already have a steady source of ready to wear, and they also sell cloth, which is interesting. And they've been doing pretty well in that regard. But yeah, the whole article is kind of obviously adapting. They were all very conscious of changing societal requirements for suits and everything. We've already I think one of the first things we talked about with Kyoshi was the death of the tie, very early on and everything. And then we're also, whenever people talk about the death of men's, I always talk about how we're going to be in a post sneaker world, to talk to to shout out our colleagues at Throwing Fits. Colleagues, I guess we can call them that.
Sure. Okay.
I think that obviously the whole idea here is that menswear is kind of shifting to becoming this very niche interest, and we've always kind of talked about that a lot. We get asked this, Spencer will tell, we get asked all the time, how do you guys dress up when you're not required to dress up for school, for your work, whatever. And the answer is always because we do it because we like it, and all the people that we know tend to like it also, so they'll keep supporting the brands that they enjoy. It's I can't think of an analogous comparison off the dome. But I think it's a good thing that it's moving in the way of streetwear or designer wear, where it's obviously it's not mainstream, but that's a good thing. It should be worn by people who appreciate it, and hopefully this will take out the context of, oh, you're wearing that, you're looking too corporate. We always have those great guy workwear quotes about, hey, I'm wearing my jacket has patch pockets, I'm casual right now, and obviously menswear has these connotations, as we talked about in the if it's cool, if it's attractive kind of thing. But maybe when it's worn by guys now who can wear it, we've seen our friend Doug wear an immaculately tailored ring jacket sport coat with a crew neck sweater and New Balance sweatpants. I think that's where it should go.
Yeah.
As opposed to wearing the Men's Warehouse stuff, because that's what's actually dying, right? The Men's Warehouse, the J. Crews, the Bank of America, the Brooks Brothers, If only, yeah.
Burn the great menswear line,
But it's stuff like that where the places that we wouldn't shop out already should go on the way out, because they are the ones that are not adapting, and they kind of got by on the whole, well, you have to dress like this, so you have to come to us. Now it's going to be like the guys like, Anglo-Italian, Drake's 18 East, who do menswear and menswear adjacent things that people can connect with. I can still hear you guys. I'm gonna go use the restroom, but feel free to jump in on your
Ethan talked about the patch pockets, and it made me think like it's also about attitude. Like you could have a nice Drake's or a Neapolitan suit, and it's like, but you still like, it's about how you wear it. So you
absolutely.
still look very stuffed in and just like stiff and just awkward influencer posing with it, and still not have the vibe.
Yeah, you can.
And also, alternatively, you could wear like a worsted wool suit that's maybe a boring cut or whatever, but still like be slouchy and live with it and work with it. And that's kind of why I like the sack suit, because it's not those cooler in Neapolitan deets, but you can make it work.
It's possible to make like traditional menswear stuff cool. You just might not be able to wear it in like, exactly the original context. You kind of have to. You kind of have to be cool with switching things up, like playing around. With old favorites.
Yeah. Wasn't there, by the way, an article from like, I don't know if it was about JMuser exclusively, but I feel like it involved them, or they shared it, where they talked about the death of the suit or something like that, or like the reaction to people saying the death of the suit, saying in this time we're still flourishing, we're still creating. I thought there was some kind of article about that a while ago.
I didn't see that one.
Not so long ago. But
I mean, that sounds like something that would have come out in like, I don't know, March, April. If you find it, drop it in chat and we can take a look.
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Kiyoshi, talk while I look this up.
I just think like anyone who's telling you like they're doing the same amount of business as they did pre-COVID this time last year is probably lying. I can truthfully say that, our the amount of suits we make now versus then is way down. And really the only people that anecdotally, at least through my doors, have all been weddings. Yes, people are still getting married right now, as in like a couple weeks from now, a month from now.
Yeah.
They're that optimistic, I guess, about their prospects to have a wedding. Yeah, it's a bit weird, to be pretty honest, but also I have people that are planning for next year and are still buying stuff like now, which is really weird to me. But everything's very wedding driven. It's not so much obviously like work clothing, at least what I'm seeing. And I think a lot of that like work wardrobe is just, if it were me, I would put it on hold too. Just because I don't know if I'm going to be back at an office regularly. Again, a lot of my friends that are in the professional kind of like white collar, more formal workplace, they haven't been to an office since this started, and probably won't be back till maybe second half 2021. So they're also not buying things for work clothing. It's just not anecdotally something people I think are thinking about right now. I think once they get like we are coming back definitely on this date, reopening our offices, I think people will then think, I've gained or lost weight. I kind of got rid of a bunch of this stuff. Maybe they need something new. Maybe they want something new. But yeah, right now it's pretty much just heavily in weddings. And that's, I think, like the one area that hasn't gone more casual. Because like even you think of like Silicon Valley, the Bay Area, that is one of our biggest markets just for weddings alone. Guys there are willing to wear a tux or something even crazier like a burgundy tuxedo, or they want like a really unique colored suit. We had someone who wanted like an orange suit, like orange.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really weird to me.
Who was this client? David S. Pumpkins?
It was a wedding call.
Okay.
David S. Pumpkin.
The one and only?
Stuff like that. So it's just very interesting to see that the wedding and events industry still remains. I think that will be like the last.
The wedding industrial complex will never die.
They remain undefeated.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
Forever.
But on the other hand, I often wonder about this like new idea, like casualization of suits and redefining what that means to mean just unmatching top and bottom out of the same fabric. And I think that's kind of an interesting concept. I've seen a lot of brands play with that idea. And it's not necessarily like a suit jacket per se, but it is something that approximates a jacket, whether it be like a chore coat or an overshirt or something like that. I think that's kind of an interesting thing that maybe we'll see more of in the next year or two. I like it just because I can feel a little bit more dressed up because it's a matching fabric on top and bottom, but it's not like I actually put on like a normal suit when I go out. I feel like it hits that nice little sweet spot right now.
By the way, I, for whatever reason, from my Twitch Mac app, can't paste in the chat, but I posted in the live Discord channel. It is from Bloomberg from August 26th. The title is "The Suit Proclaimed Dead is Alive and Well for Top Tailors." Has a nice photo of Jake Muser with, I think, Matt. I don't know if it's Matt. It's a client. It's a client's measurements doing bespoke thing. So I posted that in the live chat because again I couldn't figure out how to paste.
Do you know Matt's measurements just from a glance? Is that why you guessed that?
Yeah, I memorized his jawline, his height. I know everything about him,
the
and I hope he never watches
Am I
this.
right, boys?
That was a long one. We know what happened in there.
Dropping the kids off at the pool.
I said it was food. I didn't say it was piss. I said it was food.
Oh, it was unloading
That's right.
the dump truck.
No, I think So obviously, yeah, I think
MJ.
that there is a grain of salt to be taken with these articles. Obviously, no one in general is doing better than before the quarantine, but I think most people are surprised that they're still surviving. I guess maybe thriving might be a word that is a little bit weird, but
Sure.
I think it's cool to see some people kind of survive and maintain it. And I think that's kind of one reason why I keep doing what I'm doing, and why we keep doing the podcast and everything is because we genuinely like menswear, and selling we don't have a brand, but selling the idea that you can wear this and kind of have this kind of casual demeanor is important to me, because I don't think I'm necessarily being formal, and I never want to look corporate. None of the things I wear would work in a conservative corporate environment anyway. So, I think that's what's super great, because even that, you could compare it to like a lot of streetwear stuff where some people can't wear all of that, So, but yeah, I think it's we'll see what happens.
Have we broken down the corporate look or the corporate scheme versus our look on like stream before?
Not really, but I think it's just more like, obviously if it's busy,
That's a little yeah. Yeah, and it's the modern silhouette, right?
Right. Yeah, they're not gonna I don't think it gets as far as shoulders, but those things too. When you someone you're wearing a soft shoulder or a wide lapel jacket, they're like, oh, I can't wear that. But if you just show them a sport coat, they'll be like, oh, that's fine. But then sometimes you add in like the extra words like, oh, pleats, wide or no break, patch pockets, they'll be like, well, that's crazy. But then you just have a fucking picture, right? Like they'll be like, oh, that's professional. So it's weird. People's view of menswear is always going to be weird, but that's again my goal.
We talked about this before, but I think it depends. The main things are really fabric and color, I think. So tweeds are out. Any sorts of checks might be out. In terms of fabric, where you don't know flannels, no corduroys, obviously, just all worsted wool. But beyond that, though, I get what you're saying, that people probably might say like, oh, I can't wear pleats, or I need structured shoulders. Soft shoulders are more informal, but I feel like this is just stuff people say when they're buying clothes. But if you were to wear soft shouldered, but otherwise quite business like navy worsted suit,
they're not. Yeah,
business
it's gonna be fine.
no one.
Yeah,
no
exactly. Yeah. Straight up.
I don't claim to know the business world wardrobe, certainly not in politics, where I see that was just like dark, solid worsted suits. But like for like business, I feel like, I don't know, are they getting away with wearing like their variations of the blue and gray? You get a little bit of check in there. Certainly not like a brown check sport, like, you know what I mean? Not like crazy checks like we know, but like simple, vague, stupid checks from like the navy and blue suits, maybe, or navy and gray suits.
I think they can, because if you see guys walk around financial districts these days, you see a lot of checks going around and like lighter blues.
That's the new
people like gingham or but.
Yeah,
no, not like a,
You're talking about suits or shirts, right? Suits.
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 Oh, I was thinking. Okay, I was thinking about shirts.
Yeah,
no, I think that's why it's always so weird to me that like they won't wear a sport coat, but they'll wear like a fucking like blue and red gingham shirt, and like fucking like tan shoes, but all of a sudden like
happy socks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and happy socks. But like a fucking tassel over is like, oh well, no, that's too much for me. That's so dainty, So
I think it's like like they can definitely like work in an accessory that's weird, because like you can wear like a weirdo tie very easily, I think, for a lot of people in their head, versus wearing like a jacket that has like more than 2 colors in it, let alone with like.
It's always weird. Like they'd rather wear the weird tie than like a brown check jacket. It's always like a very weird kind of thing. So again, this is why it's my fucking the reason I'm here on this earth is to show people you can be just as slouchy. And have a casual demeanor at the very least with classic menswear, even if you are wearing a tie. Then
we pray that you are.
Because I mean, I love menswear, and I want to make sure it survives. Moving forward in the pandemic and everything, and it is nice to see that people again they do like it. They still dress up the way that they did before, but now that they're free to do it, because they don't have to. And I think. Again, if people understand that, like, they're wearing a sport coat because they don't have to, and then they're wearing it like interestingly, they'll be like, okay, so that's like a cool. It's a 3-button jacket with a lapel on it instead of like, oh, that's a formal jacket. It just happens to be something made of a worsted wool, So, I mean, that's how I always thought of it, right? So, just as like alternatives to replace with each other. But yeah, so Jordan, if you're watching, or if I highlight this clip, hopefully this will answer a lot of your things here, and a lot of people also who, this is no offense this is not intended to Jordan, but in general, people talk about the death of the suit, these people tend to like not dress up in any style whatsoever anyway, so it's like it's not even like
to say nothing of direction.
Well, it's not even, they don't do streetwear, they don't do anything like out of the ordinary. So no. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not going to affect them wearing t-shirts and jeans,
When I hear people proclaiming the death of the suit, though, I don't think of tailoring in general, which is, I think, what maybe you might be picking up on, and like the guys here might be picking up on. But when I hear people say death of the suit, I see it as them referring to the death of conservative dark
dress
navy
codes,
or charcoal, 2-piece, staid,
one cup,
and those I think are going to die. Those I honestly think are going to die. I don't know what.
And I want them to die.
Yeah,
kill it if you have to.
And that's the other thing too. We're not worried about the death of the suit, if indeed what they're referring to is the death of dark navy or dark charcoal suits, because we don't really care about that sort of thing. That's not the sorts of suits we wear.
Right.
The sorts of suits we wear, the flannels, the corduroys, they're not dying, and might be the opposite actually. We might be moving into a place where more casual fabrics supplant, the
exactly.
keeping the way out. Maybe formal bankers in the future, a couple of decades down the line, will be going about in corduroy for some reason. That might be
that is annoying. Where it's like the Silicon Valley is like, suits are too formal. It's just like instead of like getting rid of tailoring in general, they just try to make the suit less corporate. Like that's the whole idea. Like, you could just make it more slouchy, and you don't have to, and then you don't have to skip it entirely.
Yeah. No, right. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yes, Aldous? Were you going to say some more?
Yeah. Well, Matt was talking about the Silicon Valley guys, but they never start out from a place of wearing suits to begin with. But you certainly see in the financial districts, people who would have gone to work in, worsted suits, like I've been constantly referring to. You start to see them going about in checks now, and like in electric blue suits. To be fair, not great stuff from our perspective. The tan shoes that everyone wears, but it's it's showing that they're moving into a more casual direction. Maybe not moving in a way that we would prefer, but they're certainly moving into a more casual direction, more casual fabrics, checks. Maybe we'll start. Maybe sport coats become formal at some point. The idea of an odd jacket and trousers. That might just because plenty of people just refer to those things as suits anyway. Odd jackets and trousers are no different.
My hope again is that when those things die, hopefully people will be able to go, oh wait, well that's a sport coat, but it's not the banker one. You know, maybe as those things are phased out of like the lexicon and out of the the general wardrobe of people, they'll be able to understand the approach that we have. Like, it's a little bit more subversive, a little bit more interesting, a little bit more, whether it's Ivy, vintage inspired, whatever, they'll see those cues instead of it being corporate, So
so the idea of banker suits is dying, I think. But the idea of a suit jacket, a tailored jacket with lapels and a button up front, that's not dying. People are still interested in that. People will still willingly choose to wear it to work because it looks smart. That will continue to evolve and continue to be seen at work environments. It's just it's just the worsted navy and charcoal suits and black Oxford shoes. And that's dying, and good riddance.
It's funny. What's funny? I've when I was buying a bunch of shoes, a couple of years ago, I bought a pair of black cap-toe brogues from Allen Edmonds. They're really good, barely worn.
The Strand.
The Strand, and I do not wear them either because I do not wear black lace-up shoes. So,
I bought a pair of black
Oxfords
too, and I've literally never worn them in years. But
they just don't feel right. I can't wear them with like my cotton suits because that feels a little too casual for them. And I don't really wear worsted suits. And if I do wear worsted suits, I'd rather subvert the banker look with a fucking pair of tassel or penny loafers now. So it's like those shoes are useless. I mean,
I still want to try with my black cap toes with like some white socks and then like some kind of tailoring separates look. I really want to try that look sometime.
I am not a fan of Oxfords worn casually. I'm not a fan. I guess I say I wouldn't do it myself. It's hard, yeah.
It's sort of a Frenchy thing.
It is a French, the thing is, it is, and maybe it's just because the shape of the strand is a little too like round to me. I don't know. Maybe it's not as almondy as I would like. But I know like Jake Grantham, he wears whatever model that they did with Crockett and Jones, but they have like a suede brogue cap toe. And he looks good wearing that with like light wash jeans, sport coat, kind of French Ivy, whatever.
But
for me,
which why it works.
exactly. And in fact, I do have brown suede cap toes with like a day-night sole from Allen Edmonds, and I have worn those more than the black Oxfords. So again, I'm still curious to see how everything will move out, will change in the future. But again, hopefully we'll see more of that. Wearing white socks more, wearing separates, wearing chinos, or even more Ivy stuff where it's it's classic menswear, but you're dressing it down. I think that would be.
I think like one of the things I've noticed is like the middle of what I would consider like tailoring is going to, I think, be pulled apart, and it's either going to be you either go toward the extremes, right? You either go like toward event dressing and you get like a very formal suit, maybe on the verge of a tux or like a dinner jacket or something like that. Yeah, it's more like stand out, like a statement piece to wear, or which I think a lot of people could find reasons to wear it. You'd only wear it like a couple times a year anyway if you're quote getting dressed up, or you go toward again like super casual end of the spectrum. I don't think a lot of this like typical hashtag menswear advice of you need a navy suit, a gray suit, and a charcoal suit. You need, black cap toes, dark brown, maybe derbies. Like, I think like that kind of like middle of the road, typical starter pack on MFA tailored wardrobe is like just not going to appeal to anyone. That isn't like required to wear that for work, and it's like. Because the workplaces go very casual toward like the midtown uniform of it's a gingham shirt and a Patagonia vest and some bonnebel chinos, or it's gonna go even more casual than that with like athleisure or whatever. And I don't really know how long the that whole like 1960s style typical business suit that the gray flannel suit that everyone wears is really going to be a thing. I know for a fact like a lot of people don't necessarily love that. That's not like their most first choice. Is just what fits in at the office with everyone else that wears it.
Right.
It lacks that individuality and fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think for a lot of people, and I think that's why a lot of guys like would gravitate toward like the fun sock trend or like the crazy pockets wear, or
it's easy, it's accessible, to like kind of be.
I mean, I'll tell you.
Yeah, but he makes a good point there, and that yes, we hate with our knowledge, our assessments of the fun sock thing as well, we hate it. But it does show the intent that people have of trying to make things more casual, and that it's moving in that direction.
They're trying to make life fun.
But they can't fathom any other way to doing it. That kind of makes sense.
But do you think that's changing though? Do you think the average guy is getting has much more knowledge today of nuances in menswear than he might have had even maybe 5 years ago or something? The guy's not.
I don't know. I mean, again, despite there being 2.5 million people at MFA, and even MFA doesn't like the fun sock trend, right? But it's still very small. 2.5 million people based on whatever 3 billion people on the planet, or 6, I don't know how many people on the planet, but I think that it's. I don't think they're any more literate. It's just they're able to they can find it, but they have to have the willingness and the open-mindedness to kind of get into that, right? Again, it's really weird.
Implying that they have the knowledge now to make really fire casual fits. No, but maybe
could.
they know. Yeah, well, they could, but again, as you say, it requires time that a lot of people don't want to invest. But I do think they know a bit more than I think knowledge of menswear today amongst normies, so to speak, business suits and normies is higher than it might have been a couple of years ago. The environment that birthed fun socks. I think people have moved. I think as a whole, people have moved beyond that. Now, as to how far beyond that, probably not too far beyond that. But I mean,
I think those are all. I put those in the same realm. Again, I think a lot of guys out there are, just based on TikTok, based on Instagram, lots of guys still watch teaching men's fashion, and I feel like that's. I mean, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? Whether this is going to be the new baseline, right? The whole, and it kind of already is, right? Slim navy chinos with gingham shirt. You add in the fucking tan Oxford tan derby shoes, so that could be the new baseline.
Walk into an H&M or walk into a Zara and just see what's on the shelves. Like that's what the majority of people are buying. Like, or Banana Republic. Like, that is the most accessible. They're the most distributed throughout the United States. They have the most doors. That is kind of where middle America fashion is. That's what I'd say the norm or the median, or I don't know what the actual math.
I still this goes. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I need to know what the best avenue. Maybe it's on our MFA. Maybe it's just on our menswear, which is a god awful place if you guys look at that one. But I really want to put like a very stiff model of a guy wearing like what is I think the basic bastard, right? Like crew neck, slim jeans, white sneakers, and then fucking like Jake Grantham just fucking slouching with this tie all sloppy. I want to say who looks the most like relaxed, or I might even say the word slouchy. And I'm really curious to see what people say.
I think
I'm pretty sure.
Okay, if you say slouchy, then it's a leading question.
Yeah.
No, but
hey man, straw man.
I mean, but that's the point though, because I mean that's what I'm trying to further out. Like,
okay, but
because
and then they're gonna say, okay, he looks more slouchy, and then what happens?
Well, that's my point is to see if everyone says that, because then it'll show me that people can say that tailoring can be sloppy, whatever you want to call it, compared to a two put together slim chino, slim sweatshirt with white sneakers. Because that's my whole thing. It's the idea that is still way too put together and too like trussed up, like that,
But even I think it's going to be very hard to convey slouchiness to normies through a picture. Like we can see like Drake Grantham as slouchy, but for the average Joe, he doesn't really have a frame of reference.
That's the idea. That's the whole thing behind it, right? I'm obviously going to lead them in that thing, but my point is to show them, like it's not it's to say, see, like just because he's wearing that doesn't mean he's automatically the best dressed person or the most formal person in the room. Right.
Well, my prediction is that they're going to just go with the t-shirt because it's a t-shirt and Jake Grantham's in a suit. It's not to say that I don't think people can judge slouchiness, but I don't think the average person with the amount of knowledge he or she has can ascertain slouchiness from just one picture alone. Like maybe if they see Jake Grantham going about, if they're having coffee with Jake Grantham, yeah, they can. I think people will pick up on.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure just because I've seen some people. Again, you gotta source people, and like the comments on Jake Grantham. Like Jake Grantham's intro album was posted years ago on MFA, like in the height of #menswear, and the hate it got was insane. It was
really?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was like this guy is dressed awfully. Like, why is he wearing a suit? He's not wearing it correctly. It's like the tie is so sloppy. This guy, like people saying, I'd rather him wear jeans and sneakers instead of that. Which is why, again, I do think people can get into it and see that. And I want the greater world to kind of get that because again, MFA, and also back then, MFA is a lot smaller than it was like now.
But that response just seems to suggest that people can't wrap their heads around the idea of wearing a suit casually. You can't educate them. They're in a place where a suit can never ever be worn casually.
It's about.
And if they see it being worn casually, it looks awful. They're not going to.
Right. But it's the idea. It's kind of like anti-fit in that sense. You have to admit. It's proof to them that you can do it because this person's doing it, and you can wear it without it being proper. And if they can understand that, even if it is antagonistic, then we are moving in the right direction. It's like the whole thing about a suit can't be that skinny, and yet eventually that's where we are. Right now, at least for the past 5 or 7 years. Right?
Is that a rhetoric that was going around in the 90s though? Like suits can't be that skinny, and then the 2000s.
Again, I mean honestly, man, I wish you were in MFA or on Reddit because the way you gotta see the way people talk about this kind of stuff. I mean, even now, all these strong opinions from like regular guys, or at least they say that they're like, I'm just a regular guy and I would never wear it. Like you see all those kind of things. So again,
famous regular guys.
It was famous.
Guys. So again, I'm still curious to see what would happen because. Obviously you're right, context does matter, and I've also gotten comments like, oh Ethan, like what, like I've had a guy ask me like, what do you call your style, because it's like you're wearing a suit but it's not the same way I think of it, and I told him it's called classic menswear, and he goes, okay, that makes sense. I'm like, okay, that's good enough for me.
They knew everything.
Yeah, it was a guy I played Nerf with like years ago, and he still like we were just like Facebook friends, and he's seen how the blog happened and everything. So again, it shows me that these people can get it. Even if they are not.
Yeah, if your Nerf friend can get it, anybody could get it.
Exactly.
Another great title.
So not to come at you, but we say we talk a lot about how we're both like, oh, we don't care what other people think, but you do tend to think a lot about hypothetical situations in which you can prove to the entire world that you are dressed casually. Like, this is the thing that occupies a lot of your mind. You're like, I'm completely confident, I don't give a shit what everyone thinks, but one day they will know, they will understand. They're gonna get this.
I will be respected.
Yeah.
I guess it's less about me, but more of so the entire concept.
Yeah, okay.
So like, but if I'm the face of the concept, I don't mean that. That's totally fine with me. But no, I think it's just because I think it's more so like I wouldn't. I mean, even with you, Spencer, we don't get antagonistic people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we seldom do. I think it's more so again, the questions that we get, it's like you can get it. Come on, guys, like just
you can get it
just deeper. And I think that's my point. So I have questions, but I think it'd be great if we all just kind of got it. It's like
get it, got it good.
Music or film, I guess. It's kind of like it's like I'm sure indie film people are like they're like they don't care what people think about fucking I can't even
Terrence
think of like an
Malick.
indie film. Yeah, but
Anything
we would
by
love it
Terrence
if more
Malick.
people got it, right? Like it's like that with any kind of niche interest, right? Like yeah, like you don't have to, but like it'd be great if everyone kind of just understood it, you know? So
Well, and there's like a community, and it's like an unspoken thing, and you can tell if you stick out and you're trying to fit in, but you don't get it yet. So then
yeah,
they don't really
there's a
accept
lot
you.
of that. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. So again, it's because as we've said before in the podcast, fashion is a very visual thing that people can kind of just look at. So obviously the connotations and the these analogies that they're going to make are going to be a lot stronger. And of course, menswear has a background of formality that is, again, as we've talked about, is very hard to shake, right? Despite whatever you do with it. Like being into film, yeah, that's kind of like a hipster thing, but a lot of people today are starting to get more into film, with Letterboxd, with like film TikTok, film Twitter. There's a lot of, but it's menswear is like special in that regard where it has kind of a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So.
Well, and with menswear, that menswear community, like there is this added degree where you don't see with like film or indie music or anything like that, where it's like there's a degree of like everyone sort of fulfilling that role of teacher and just like here, like not just like providing it like something for discourse, but just like this is the way to do it, and we all have our definitive guide. And I think that can cause a lot of friction as well. And so you're all just kind of butting heads against each other.
No, definitely. I mean,
but at the same time, they're all providing an in to the community as opposed to the other ones.
Right, because also, saying, there's like this idea of like, masculinity growing up with being like film doesn't have that. Music doesn't have like, oh, when you're a man, you listen to jazz. Like they don't have that. I mean,
I wish there was.
Some people might, but like, menswear has a whole like, it's kind of, I mean, like the industry, the mainstream is built on the whole when you grow up you have to like this, and so that's kind of one reason why we're starting from -100 as opposed to like just 0, with making it more acceptable. So